So in today's webinar topic, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite things in the world, animals.
Ah, interesting. Okay, so let's go through it. Why the topic of animals, and why is that so important to you?
Well, animals, I believe, have some kind of connection when it comes to autism.
I remember there were multiple pictures of you in the chicken house holding these chickens. And then the other thing that was uncanny about it too was I remember a picture of you and this chicken that would just come and it would just be with you.
Now, I'm not saying that's that, hey, every person who has autism likes animals, but when they do, it's a very interesting topic to talk about. I'd like to point some key notes about some kind of connection between people who have autism and animals in general. Number one, they cannot speak. Animals cannot speak in words. A lot of people with autism cannot really communicate with words. Number two, body movements. Body movements in animals. When I was at the zoo, I like to see a gorilla that likes to just sit there and then just do silly things with the tongue because he's so bored, bored out of his mind like that. Kind of hold it there and such. And I find myself sitting right next to a gorilla and then just trying to mimic whatever he's doing. This gorilla, and feeling like I'm trying to relate or trying to connect with this gorilla. And same with other animals too, whether we're trying to get onto four legs as well. I remember being at the house and trying to act like a tiger or a lion or anything like that. And that goes for number three, which is making noises. Making noises as in I sometimes make growling sounds or snarling every time there's something wrong. And to be honest, during my teen years, I remember still making those aggressive sound effects whenever something goes wrong or when I'm angry and such. It kind of builds that character and such too. A lot of kids think, hey man, this guy is kind of hardcore and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't really quite socially appropriate. But I still remember making those noises. And sometimes I just get from the animals that I'm more interested in.
So you've drawn this connection as far as commonalities. So maybe those that have autism had a difficult time with commonality of their peer groups. So animals, they can make this connection. The animals seem to love unconditionally. And all of your common points, which is a very fascinating topic too, is as far as making kind of those sounds, that was, especially when you were little, the way that you did communicate, through grunting or shrieking or, other sounds, which could have been kind of animal-like sounds, as well. Are there other personality traits or instincts that you see inside of animals that also would apply to someone that has autism?
Yeah, absolutely. Number four, eye shifts. Eye shifts are very important. That kind of could go similar to looking away at appropriate times. Because I have studied about cats, these feline little creatures here and there. And one thing I learned about cats is that they got attitude. Unique way of interacting with people, and oftentimes I would look at them and then I just look away and then try to keep on walking. Sometimes get low, sitting down and such, and then the cats would come over, and that's the reason why is because you don't make like a meow sound or anything like that too. That's not the way I speak cat. Because to me, I just very quietly, not sounds, and then look away at certain times. Sometimes get low, even just sit there, thinking, and then the cat just comes by. That's the way I that's the way I could do it with cats and how we kind of relate in certain areas. Cats are mostly quiet, and sometimes they like music, and boy, I do love music.
Yeah, and it is interesting because for whatever reason, it seems like all animals do just love you too, instinctively. It really is extraordinary. And so I do believe that there is some type of connection there. And perhaps it's just the innocence, it's the, non-judgment it's just how you occur. Is any thoughts or any theories on why animals typically are so attracted to you in particular? And it also seems to be the case with quite a few people who have unique abilities as well, whether it be autism or other things.
A lot of animals seem to have a sense of fear when it comes to people. They can sense fear. They know when people are fearful. They know when they should be feared of humans. And here's another thing I want to point out. Number 5 is fearlessness. All animals have fearlessness. They either fight or they flight. Taking flight is not an act of fear. It's an act of survival instinct. And that's the thing that a lot of people with autism, they have a hard time trying to find this fear. And I remember back then, the different webinar that we talked about is, a smart fear and a, fear that's, hey, it's no big deal. For example, don't walk through traffic and such too. That's a smart fear. Don't walk across a tightrope on a, very tall building and such too. That's just a desperate cry for help.
Yeah.
And all these different stuff too. So, fearlessness, I believe, is one of the main key to when it comes to animals as well. Even Tarzan, he made a statement saying that, he's, befriends all animals because he's very brave, very strong. He understands the animals, but doesn't really quite understand humans that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So fight or flight, mechanism, basically our instinct mechanism when especially we have sensory overload, that happens to us, we shut down. Same with animals, same thing, it's too much, or if they feel like they're in a situation, they just immediately then will try to get out of that situation, as well.
Which is exactly why I tend to just leave out of the classroom. That's just my flight maneuver.
Right. What are your opinions on therapies? Use of animal therapy. Did you do any type of animal therapy? Did you have animals, growing up? If so, were they helpful? Yeah, tell us about, that portion of your life.
Sure. So animal therapy is optional. I'm not saying that hey, you should do animal therapy or anything like that too. It's not I'm suggesting, but it is worth trying. Another thing about animals too is that Temple Grandin has spent a very long time understanding about cattle, the cows even. She grew up in the farmlands, and he learned how to calm down the cows when it comes to the meat industry, which is coming into enclosed space because she actually tried that with herself, and she hypothesized saying that if I'm tight in enclosed spaces, the cows can also be calm in tight enclosed spaces as well.
Really, as a therapy, it's worth a try, not only from a calming and sensory integration standpoint, but also from starting to learn basic responsibilities and care, so to the extent that you can care for an animal, whether it's your animal or whether you just spend an hour with that particular animal. There are programs that teach, those to take care of, horses, having to brush them down, and, just care of animals in general can also start those base skill sets too. So, animal therapies, whether that be dogs or cats or rabbits or guinea pigs or, depending on, and every person, of course, with autism is different and they will all react different, but it is something to really try because of these very unique relationships and also just seems to be this kinship or this fondness, for animals and those that have unique abilities. It's pretty cool. You also talked about stuffed animals, the animals that just aren't real, but they're representations of animals, like your snow leopard. And, even to this day, I mean, you're still very fond of your stuffed animal collection. Why is that? Why is that so special to you?
Yeah, stuffed animals. It's the closest animals I can get on certain occasions. But not only that, but for a long time, since I was very little, I always had these stuffed animals with me too. They're in my room, and I see them every time, every day. And the thing about them is that hey, they're fluffy, they're soft, and fuzzy. All these different features that they have, and their eyes. They seem real, even though they're probably just marbles. But they're really neat to look at too when I need time to be down and such. And so true that even today I still have these stuffed animals, only here at my in my cave. And I mentioned the cave before, but to be quick, is that the cave that I have used to be a storage space, but now full of pillows and my stuffed animals and books and VHS tapes, and it's a very small enclosed space. That's like my little area to recharge, as in a way too, when it's been kind of a busy day and I need to be in there and recharge and read with my stuffed animals as well. Sometimes even resting with the animals too. It's comforting. It keeps me company when it's in a way to take a break from humans. I know it sounds weird, but
Yeah, totally.
just take a break from that general area. Just be with the animals.
Yeah. So that becomes your things that you use to comfort yourself. That's very consistent from a sensory input. Stuffed animals don't talk. They don't really give you, but they do. They're soft, they're cuddly. The way they feel are predictable. And so the encouragement, like in the case of, some people call it a sensory room, you call it your cave. Others would be, it's just your place that you go, that is a safe place for you, that you get to recharge yourself from all of taking in all the sensory, all your responsibilities during the day of writing and shipping books and doing webinars and doing magazine articles and videos and interviews and, sharing the stage with, people. I mean, that is a lot. It's a lot of input. It's a lot of sensory. And you do need that time, whether it be at your hotel room or whether it be in, your place here at home, and you've created those systems for yourself. And I think stuffed animals and just animals in general are a really good thing that help you to calm yourself too. It's it's been a good strategy for you. So what would be some strategies that parents or caregivers or teachers could do with someone that has autism? Would there be any type of assignment that they could do specifically that would really maybe create a breakthrough in communication or help that caregiver understand more about their particular person's connections with animals or other things like that?
Sure. We will. I would suggest that we start off with the most basic question of all. What's your favorite animal?
So that's interesting, right? So that question in and of itself can create a breakthrough because you've got this common point of animals, and animals are something that are very interesting. They're fascinating. And it really could create either verbal communication or a response, or maybe it's a response via an appliance or something else, because you have a touchstone called, hey, what's your favorite animal? It's also a really good social cue as well. So that as you're starting to develop socially with others, animals are a great topic to talk about. Do you have a favorite pet, or tell me about your animal, as well. To the extent that you can find these connections, these common points, my favorite color is red, the curtains are red. Ultimately then, over time, someone who has autism, who's created all of these separate files, like a red curtain doesn't relate to a red ball, that doesn't relate to a red nose, can over time start to categorize things as red, and also then start saying, okay, well, red may be used for stop, green may be used for go, but it also can be a lawn. It also can be a fire truck, right? But that becomes really, really confusing unless you start having all of these different categories, but the categories are all built from this common point that will be the connectors between all of these files. And then that creates kind of this integrated world for someone who has autism. But that takes a lot of time, a lot of years, to do that. But using animals as a connection really can also, I think, speed up that process, because there is something unique about animals that way. What a fantastic thing for someone with autism to be fascinated with, because it's unending, the things that you can learn about a bird's wing, about the way that they build a nest, or some of the engineering feats that they use, the way a butterfly will fly. It's just really a hummingbird. It really is extraordinary. All of the amazing things that you can learn about. It really is endless.
When it comes to autism, I do believe that animals is one of the biggest achievements to understanding about autism. Temple Grandin, talked about the author of The Chicken Who Saved Us, Kristen Jarvis Adams, talked about it and how it managed to save for the kids. Because ultimately, the kid was Andrew was very ill, and the chicken just brought back his spirits up, and then he became and then he felt a lot better. And I just want to mention too that it's always a phenomenal achievement when it comes to being ill and having an outstanding view on life, because once you find that peace in the mind and heart, you'll eventually feel a lot better. To me, I just feel like that's just outstanding achievements that people with autism should be extremely proud of. Don't stop talking about animals. That's my advice to you. Animals are very important, and feel like that you should talk a lot more about animals, because you're so into them, you're so a whole lot about them, and it gives you the confidence of learning how to talk to others, starting with the simple topics that you are interested in.
Thanks so much for sharing the story about animals and autism, and we so look forward to your next program as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming. We'll see you next time.